Is Bengals rookie running back Chase Brown on the verge of something big in Cincinnati? We invite in Bengals expert Joe Goodberry to help us understand his potential. Next on Draft Brothers. Okay, welcome to the Draft Brothers podcast, powered by Champions Round, where we discuss all things NFL and fantasy football. I am your host, Jeff Hasley, and I'm joined by my draft brother, Dan Turner. And today we are going to dig deep into rookie running back Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. Is he a potential gem or just another Bengals backup running back who fails to perform? We invite Joe Goodberry, a Bengals expert and host of the Bengals on the Brain podcast, to join us. And Joe's going to help us understand just how excited we should be with Brown. Joe, welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. So, Joe, Dan and I have discussed Brown in other videos, and today we want to kind of put him under the microscope and learn, is he someone that we should target? So let's go ahead and get to it. Let's start off with a little introduction to Brown. I mean, he's a fifth-round draft pick, a day 3 pick out of the University of Illinois. He's 23 years old. He had his last year at college. He rushed 328 times, over 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty good. He's known for breaking tackles, being a reliable receiver. We know that there's a void in Cincinnati at the running back position because of Tyjae P. going to Denver in the offseason. There's an opportunity to back up Joe Mixon, and we know that he has some questionable skeletons in the closet, I guess, if we could say that. So that could be problematic. What do you make of Chase Brown and the Bengals offense here, Joe? Let us know. How do you feel?
Yeah, I was really excited with the pick. I thought the Bengals would address running back, of course. I think many thought they could do it in the first, second, third round, no later than that. And then the draft just didn't fall the way they wanted it to in terms of addressing, I think, tight end and running back. They kept arriving on the board with the best player available being a defensive player in the first 3 rounds. And from what I understand, they go into round 4 and they say, okay, and we've got our list of players, and Chase Brown was on that list for round 4 if it had gotten to him. But Charlie Jones was ranked higher on their board, and he was also a target for round 4. So they went with Charlie Jones and said, you know what, there's still a handful of backs that seem to be at least going around later than we expected. So maybe we can still get a guy in the 5th round. And, of course, comes in, and they've got a 4th-round grade on Brown, and, he's still there. So they made the pick. And I had a grade on, I score players as prospects. I had a grade where I thought talent-wise and production-wise, he should be looked at as a late 2nd, 3rd round pick. But the reasons you mentioned, he had ball security issues. He's 23 years old already. He's not the biggest guy, right? He looks more of like the Giovanni Bernard, if you do a Bengals comparison, kind of 3rd down back, scat back type. So I understood why he went later. Having said that, I think there is a huge void here in a role that's wide open for the Bengals. And it's Tyjae P. leaving 681 total yards last year. And I don't know if we should expect Brown to get all of that, especially as a rookie. But I do think he is probably the clubhouse leader to be the guy that splits time with Joe Mixon. They do like Travion Williams still. And you mentioned other day 3 backs that haven't panned out for the Bengals. They really never used Travion Williams. They really never used Chris Evans either. So it's like, are they going to finally do it? Are they going to finally trust one of these guys to play? And who is it going to be? I do think the leader in the room is Brown because they were much higher on him pre-draft than they were Evans or Williams. Now, development the last couple of years, and they like Travion Williams. I could see him early in the season, or at least early in camp, being the 3rd down back to start.
So if you had to, if you're in a rookie draft and you're looking at players, running backs in particular, is Brown someone that you're targeting? Kind of being that homer with the Bengals, and you see that there's a possibility of him making a name for himself, kind of finding that niche, as you mentioned, or are there others that you're more? Should we be excited about Brown? I think is what we're getting at.
I think the opportunity is maybe the most exciting part because there's guys like Israel Abanikanda that goes to the Jets, and you're like, yeah, but he's buried now. I liked him more, but is he going? How much is he going to play unless Breece Hall's not back in time? And maybe he can make a name for himself early. But yeah, I do think a lot of the situations where these backs went, immediately running back 3, I'm thinking, especially for the day 3 guys, Brown's the one where you look at immediately and you say, hey, he could be the number 2 back. And if something happens with Mixon, he could be elevated even further. There is still a scenario where Mixon doesn't take a pay cut, or they say, you know what, we'll take Zeke Elliott and roll with Elliott and Brown and Travion Williams and Chris Evans. And I don't think it's likely, but even still, the Bengals don't trust Joe Mixon as a third down back. They don't trust him in pass protection. Brown had some of the most pass protection snaps in college football. One of the highest graded guys from Pro Football Focus in pass protection. And even in minicamps and rookie minicamps the last 2 weeks, his hands look really good. And I thought they looked good at the Senior Bowl as well. So very natural receiver. I think he is going to be in that role. I think he is their most dynamic and quickest guy other than Evans, who Chris Evans, when he's touched the ball, has been very dynamic. They just do not trust him at all to do the right thing on any given play. So I think a leg up instantly goes to Chase Brown. So I think the exciting part is the opportunity when we're talking late. I mean, if it's a redraft, we're talking late pick, roll the dice in one of your last couple picks. If it's dynasty or startup or anything like that, or just a rookie draft. Yeah, I do think I would slot him above some of these guys that just, I don't see them getting on the field very early.
It sounds like you're kind of leaning more towards he's an opportunity player versus a talent player or a talent type of pick. Now, Dan, we just recently did the rookie mock draft that we did. It was a 1 quarterback format, and Chase Brown was the 8th running back selected. He was the first pick in the 3rd round. Yeah, that seems about average, right?
Yeah.
I want to just kind of throw some names out here, and Joe and Dan, tell me if you would take Brown ahead of these other running backs in the draft. So let's start with Zach Evans in Los Angeles. Would you take Brown ahead of him?
Evans has a fine opportunity there and in a wide zone scheme that, could fit him. On tape, man, I did not like Zach Evans at all. If I were to compare the two of them, I think Chase Brown's going to hit the ground running right away, where Evans had issues with vision. I think he had issues with pass protection. I think he had issues staying on the right running lanes and running pass. And I think anytime you have those type of guys, in my evaluation experience, is that they will not see the field early. It's going to take an injury or something to really force him out there, and he's going to have to show it in a game situation, because I don't think they're going to like him until he's out there and doing his thing. And maybe that could be preseason, right? And a guy rips off a couple runs in preseason. Next thing you know, the team's using him more, which I would take Chase Brown before I would take Evans.
All right. Dan, how about you? What do you think? Brown or Evans?
I agree. I would take Brown over Evans. I think Evans is, he's in a decent situation with the Rams, but I just don't have any faith in their offense, honestly. Yeah. I think that it's a declining offense. They went all in for that one Super Bowl that they did get. But, I mean, yeah, he has Cam Akers in front of him, but, the offense is on decline. Matt Stafford's old. Cooper Kupp is getting up there, and they don't have a lot after him. So I just don't see it. The offensive line isn't as good as it used to be. So I think that Chris Brown and that elite young offense that he's going to be in with the Bengals with Burrow and all the receivers, I think he's in a better situation, especially with Mixon not being long for the Bengals. I think he might stay this year, but I think after this year, or even at some point this year, the pendulum will swing more towards away from Mixon and towards Brown.
Yeah. All right. Let's throw a couple more in here. How about DeWayne McBride? What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I like DeWayne McBride a lot as a runner, a guy that can break tackles, but he's coming from a smaller school and has almost no receiving experience in his career. So that's obviously going to hurt him getting on the field early, unless we're just talking early down running back. But then I think that's third on the depth chart, right, at best. And I think that, I'm taking Chase Brown because the opportunity is more clear there.
Gotcha. Dan, you too?
Yeah, I agree with what Joe said. I think the opportunity is clear there, and Cook is still there, and they have Madison, and it's just a big cluster at running back there where Chris Brown's role is more defined in Cincinnati.
All right, how about a similar type of role where it's the opportunity could possibly present itself, and if it does, it can turn into something big. Let's talk about Tyjae Spears in Tennessee. Would you take Brown ahead of Spears, Joe?
No, I would take Spears. I think they're going to be a running back centric offense, of course. And I think a third down role and a complete different shift there from Derrick Henry gives him a change of pace and a clear preference. If you're going out there in shotgun and you need to throw the ball, I like Tyjae Spears a lot. And I think not only would I take him above him, I think that would be a guy I'd probably take a little bit early and hoping that, hey, we don't know what's going to happen with Derrick Henry still. I think there's still some questions there. And then at the same time, like eventually this guy's got to break down. And then who would they turn to? I think it would be Spears.
Dan, what about you? I know we talked about Spears before, and you're like, yeah, this guy doesn't have an ACL. He's behind Derrick Henry. He's never going to get any opportunity in the huddle. What the heck? What's your take here, Brown or Spears?
I'm definitely going Brown, basically for a lot of the reasons I mentioned before with the ACL, and kind of the same situation that with Zach Evans is that Spears is an even worse offense than Evans is. I mean, you have Tannehill there, and then Malik Willis and maybe Will Levis, and none of those three inspire much confidence. There's really no outside threats besides Treylon Burks, who is still up in the air how good he's going to be. And then you have Derrick Henry really going to ride into the ground until his legs literally fall off. So we don't even know how, we know how long that's going to be. So there's just way too many question marks in addition to medical concerns with Spears for me to put him above Brown.
All right. Well, we kind of found like our sweet spot here in terms of rookie running backs. And I think we've determined that the opportunity in Cincinnati is more of an opportunity and less of a talent in terms of what Brown can provide. Not to saying that, he wouldn't be able to flourish if given the opportunity or the chance, but this appears to be Mixon's backfield, and that's just going to be the situation until it's not. But all right. Well, Chase Brown was a popular trending player that we wanted to do an article about. And both Dan and I were kind of on the fence, like, hey, could this guy potentially be a gem? Kind of sounds like he's not quite there yet, but I mean, a lot can happen with training camp, and of course, as we continue on with the season as well. But I want to thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you sharing your expertise and your insight on the Bengals and Chase Brown's outlook. We value your support here. Please consider subscribing and leaving a comment if you enjoyed the show. Your feedback means a lot to us, and it greatly benefits our channel, so thank you. Don't forget to download the Champions Round app and utilize the free $10 bonus code. We have more rookie profile videos in the works, so stay tuned for further updates in our ongoing rookie profile series. For Dan Turner, I am Jeff Hasley. Thanks so much, Joe Goodberry, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Your entertainment is our passion.